If you've been following on Facebook, this is my new switch control panel. I've had it for quite a while. The switches have been here so I could control them, but there was no feedback, so I didn't know which way any of the turnouts were switched. But now I do, and I'll show you how I did this, how it works. But it's really quite simple. I mean, it's straightforward, but there's a lot of wires involved. Eventually, on my Z21 system, I plan to code all the turnouts and be able to operate them either on the iPad or here. And if I operate them on the iPad, this will display whatever I have selected on the iPad. And if I change them here, the iPad will reflect that change as well. So it should work out pretty good. I'm not in a big hurry now to get the iPad, the Z21 operable, because I have this, and it's pretty convenient. It's not quite as convenient maybe as on the iPad, but in some ways it might be clearer because you can't get the whole layout on one screen on the Z21 system. It would take several screens to get all the switches on there, all the point switches or turnouts, whatever you want to call them. There would be several pages, so this is at a glance. I can see the condition of all my switches. Well, not all of them. I haven't included these little spurs, but the reversing loops are on there, and the main routes, which is out and down around here, which is the Johnstown route, and this is the Highland route. It goes here. The one that goes up to Berthoud and Fort Collins goes this way, and the one that goes to Johnstown goes that way. Of course, this route here goes to Denver. So let's take a look at how this works. I'll be right back. If you're not familiar with these Smale motors, by Circuitron or however it's pronounced, they have integrated logic, but they also have a way to trigger the switches manually. If you can see these three terminals on the back, the center one is a common and the two outside ones. If you short between the center one and one of the outside ones, it will change the position of the motor. So if you have a little toggle switch that can toggle momentarily back and forth, see if I can do this way. If you have a toggle switch that can toggle back and forth between this one and this one, or this one and this one, you can change the position of the motor, of the switch. This little button is for programming. When you want to give it an address, you press that, assuming it's hooked up to your DCC system. And then you can, as an accessory, you can program it with an address. In my case, on the Z21, I can program it so that I can control it from my iPad. On the other side, we have another series of terminals. The outside two terminals can be hooked up to DC or DCC to power the device. If it's DCC, then it will also read its address and operate as a DCC accessory. In the middle here, there are 6 more terminals, and 3 of them are associated with one set of contacts, and the other 3 are associated with another set of contacts. And one of the terminals is normally open, one of the terminals is normally closed. So I'm using one set to operate my electrofrogs, so that I can change the polarity of the electrofrog depending on which way the switch is thrown. And the other ones I'm using to control the LEDs on my panel. So if it's thrown one way, it sends power to the green LED. If it's the other way, it sends power to the red LED. It's pretty simple, really. So it takes 2 wires plus a common, and the common goes everywhere. It goes to all of them. To control the LEDs, the common is connected to the, in my case, the negative side of a power source, and the LEDs are connected to a positive side of a power source. When one contact is made, the green comes on, and when the other contact is made, the red comes on. And that is completely different than the ones up back here, which are strictly non-powered. There's no power source involved other than what comes out of the device itself. And if you short the center one to one or the other of these, the motor changes its position. It goes from one position to the other position. And that's how essentially my entire control panel works. The other thing of note over here is that my desk is all clean, or relatively clean. It's usually I just have a little tiny workspace left. My soldering iron is a Weller, and it has a variable temperature, although you can't set an actual degrees, but you can high, low, medium. 1 through 6 is the way it's set up. And you get to know, about where to set it for various operations, soldering LEDs or soldering track or, whatever you're soldering. I also bought this little chest. That has allowed me to clean up my desk. It's also allowed me to get my rolling stock out of boxes on the floor, and I have it in here. Hard to see because it's black in there. I have a second drawer down here with more rolling stock, just so there's a place to put it. And then there's a drawer here with my tools, my pile of tools that I normally have been keeping up there on the desk. Now I have a place for them. And the rest of the drawers are empty. So I have plenty of room to grow. I did buy this little paint mixer. I think the jury is out on this. I'm not sure how satisfactory that thing is. It makes a lot of noise and it shakes that thing around, but I haven't noticed that it really does a great job on paint, honestly. You'd have to leave it in there quite a long time, a lot longer than I'm willing to leave things. It's easier just to open the cap and stir it up with a piece of old rail. Let's go down and take a look underneath the table and see how things look under there. Now, if you recall, I used some wireway to kind of control the wires underneath, and you may be interested to see how that all turned out. I try to label everything. That says panel indicate. So that is the power supply for the LEDs on the panel. Here's my Dwarven Lamplighter 1. And these are the wireways. Very easy to get the cap off.
And I don't know how clear it is, but they are packed. But they're also neatly out of the way. And I probably could have used more of them, but this was an experiment, honestly, just to see how they would work. And they work great. These are the connections between sections. They're 24 circuit or 24 conductor connectors. Pretty robust. This one goes to the control panel, as does this one. Above it, can't see it through all the wires. And then this one is strictly for the LEDs. But that's so that I can disconnect the panel, take it off if I'm moving the layout. And this is a connection between, this is section 1. So section 1, this goes between the middle section and section 1. And each section has its own power supply for LEDs. And here's one of them. And these are the variable voltage variety. I can dial in whatever voltage I want so that I can control the brightness of the LEDs, not individually, but as a group. And this dial right here will change it between 3 and 24. And I have this one set about 7.9 volts right now. Let's, just for the heck of it, let's go see what this one says. This one's set at 10.4. And there's a third one down here. At 9.95. Whoops, where is it? Oh, there it is. 9895, 98, settled at 9. Oh, there it goes. It changed. And there is a power strip attached to every leg. And that's the only wire going from one table to another is the power supply. So this one actually goes to the wall. And that's my remote switch. That little key fob thing down there on the end will turn the power off or on there to the whole thing. And then each leg has its own, each section has its own power strip, and all the devices that are connected to that particular section are connected here to the mains. Now that's not to say that there are some circuits that go between tables, naturally, and those go through these connectors. Now all the wires are labeled. They're color-coded and they're labeled, so I can tell what's what pretty easily. Plus, I have a schedule of conductors. Let's see if we can get this in focus. This is for section 1, in other words, this particular connector. Section 1, this is the wire schedule. Number 1 is the track, the green wire for the track. Number 2, black wire for the track. And then turnout or switch 222 orange wire, 222 black wire. 222 blue, 221 orange, and so on. So it tells you the color of the wire plus the number and then the terminal that it goes to. So I still have, looks like five connections that are unused. So I could add 5 more connections between the sections. And then there's one for section 3. And they're all listed too. It may sound like a lot of trouble, but you know, if you ever are trying to trace down wires or whatever, you know, it's nice to have this. And this is the indicator lights, and it just tells me, and that would be this particular connector down here. It tells me what wires go where, and the common, and then the color over there on the right. There's also an end connector. Let's see if I can get this one apart, and we'll have a look. I've got the camera balanced on my leg here. Hopefully it won't fall off. Those are pretty tight. I'm going to have to get a screwdriver to get that open. Hang on, I'll be right back. I'm balancing the camera on my leg. Hopefully it won't fall off of there. So getting these apart, they're pretty tight, but with a screwdriver you can get them apart fairly easily. So there's male on this side and female on this side. I got these from Automation Direct. There is also a conductor at the end of each one. I'm using this end. I'm not using this end. And they're numbered 1 through 24. And there's a screw terminal that clamps the wire in. I have it labeled indication A because I thought I might need an indication B. Turns out I don't. Now all the wires that go in here, of course, are labeled. And I know you're thinking, wow, that must have taken a lot of time. Yeah, it did, but if you have any troubles, and you're trying to find out where the problem is, trust me, it's worth it. So where these wires are all correspond to that sheet I showed you. But there is a lot of wires down here.